Now let's take a look at this LeetCode question. For the number of this question is 27 okay, and the title is total distance traveled, and the level for this question is easy, and acceptance rate is 38.5%. Okay, so what we have to do is in this question is simply what we have to do is we are given truck has two fuel tanks. Let me just read the question statement here. The truck has two fuel tanks. First is the main tank, and second is the additional tank. Represent the fuel additional tank in liters. Okay, the truck has a mileage of 10 kilometer per liter. Means a truck will travel on 10 kilometers in 1 liter fuel. Okay, and what is the concept here? When 5 liter of the fuel get used or consumed from the main tank, if the additional tank has at least 1 liter of the fuel, then the 1 liter of the fuel is will be transferred from the additional tank to the main tank. Okay. So what we have to do is simply return the maximum distance which can be traveled. Okay. So we have note here. Injection from the additional tank is not continuous. It will happen suddenly and immediately. Okay. For every 5 liter of the fuel consumed from the main tank. Okay. So what is the concept here? Let me take an example. Here we have in this example number one, main tank has the 5 liter of fuel. Okay, and additional tank has 10 liter of fuel. Okay, so there is no continuous flow from additional tank to main tank. It will the fuel will transfer only, and only 1 liter fuel will be transferred from main additional tank to the main tank when the 5 liter of the tank 5 liter of the fuel is consumed from the main tank. Okay, so the 5 liter of the fuel get consumed, and 1 liter of the fuel suddenly get injected into the main tank. Okay, and in the main tank remains only 1 liter of the fuel. Okay, and in the 5 liter fuel, in the 1 liter, we can travel 10 kilometers. We have 5 liters, so our truck can travel 50 kilometers. But 1 liter additional uh, fuel is get transferred to the main tank, so the 10 kilometers more truck can travel. So the total travel the distance should be 60 kilometers. Okay, so this is the question we have to do in this case. And just let's understand the example number two. The main tank has only 1 liter of the fuel, and additional tank has the 2 liter of the fuel. Okay, so the 1 liter of the fuel transferred to the additional tanks to the main tank only when the 5 liter of the fuel is consumed from the main tank, and there is no, you can see only 1 liter of the fuel. So there is no transfer of the fuel from additional tank to the main tank. So we have only 1 liter of the fuel to consume from by the truck, and the truck can travel only 10 kilometers only. Okay. Let's take a look at the constraints. Constraint is the main tank will contain at least 1 liter of the fuel and additional tank also, and the maximum fuel is going to be 100 liters. Okay, so this is the question. Now let's take a look at the solution. So here is a class for the solution and the function distance traveled, and it takes two parameters. First is the main tank, which is going to be an integer, and second is additional tank. It is also an integer. Okay, so first we will check if our main tank has less than 5 liter of fuel. So we'll just return main tank into 10. Okay, because our truck has a mileage of 10 kilometer per liter. Okay, so let's assume our main tank has 1 liter or 2 liter or 3 liter or 4 liter. So we will just simply multiply by 10 and return this. Okay, okay, and if main tank has the equal to 5 or greater than 5 liter of the fuels. So what we will do is simply we will maintain a variable named distance to store the distance, how many distance a truck can travel. And simply we have applied the while loop here. And the condition for the while loop is main tank has 5 liter of fuel or more than 5 liter of the fuel. So this is the first condition. And second condition is additional truck also have non-negative means non-zero liter of fuels. Okay, means additional tank must have a fuel inside it. Okay, so what we will do is simply distance is going to be plus equal to 5 into 10 because our main tank has the more than or equal to the 5 liter of fuel. So we are definitely going to be at least travel 5 50 kilometers. Okay, so we are just adding that 50 kilometers here. Okay, and we are just minus the 4 liter of fuel from the main tank. Why? Because when we travel a 5 kilometer, uh, when we have consumed 5 liters of the fuel from the main tank, so the additional tank is going to inject the fuel, 1 liter of the fuel inside the main tank. So the overall fuel is going to be uh, minus from the main tank is minus equals to 4 because 1 liter is added. Okay, we can simply just do like this: 5 is added, means 5 is consumed, and 1 liter is added. So it is the overall 4. So I'm just writing here 4. Okay, and additional tank just get minus 1 liter of the fuel. Okay, we will do this until the main tank has the fuel greater than 5 or equal to 5. Okay, and the main tank has no more greater than 5 liter of the fuel. So what we will do is simply main tank into multiply by 10 and add that distance into the distance, and we will simply return that distance. Okay, let's just take an example of um, 15 liters of the fuel, and additional tanks can inject 5 liter of the fuels. Okay, so let me just dry run this case. Okay, so first condition not going to be true because our main tank has the 15 liter of the fuel. Okay, so main tank is going to be have a 15 liter, and additional tank is going to be have 5 liters of the fuel. Okay, so our distance, what our distance is going to be 5 into 20, 5 into 10 means 15 kilometers, and main tanks minus 4 from the main tank. Okay, so let me just minus 4, and it will become 11, and also minus from additional tank. Okay, and the second time is this while loop is going to run again because main tank has the 11 liters of fuel. Okay, and one more additional 50 kilometers, and let me minus 4 from here, so it will just become 7. It will become 3. The for while loop is going to run again because our main tank has 7 liters of fuel, so plus 50 again. Okay, and let me just minus 5 liters of the fuel from the here and to here. Now this while loop is going to be break out because our main tank has only 2 liters of the fuel. Okay, so this statement just multiplied 2 into because our main tank has only 2 liters of the fuel, so that distance is going to be 20. Okay, so total we have just traveled the distances 150 means 170. Okay, so answer for this case should be 170. Okay, now let's just run our sample test cases. Okay, so for the main tank has the 15 liters of fuel, and additional tank has the 5, and the output is 180, and expected is also 180. Maybe we have just done some kind of calculation error here, but our test case is running right. Okay, so let me just run, submit this solution. Okay, let me just remove this comments here because this is not needed. Okay, so let me just submit the solution. Okay, so our solution is accepted. Now let's just discuss the time and space complexity of this code. Okay, so space complexity for this code is going to be. So let's discuss where we are using this space. We are using space for this additional distance variable, and means we are not using that much space. Okay, so space complexity is going to be constant. Okay, and let's just discuss the time complexity of this code. Okay, so how much time we are taking is mm, the time complexity for this algorithm is um, depending on the main time. But why? Because this while loop is going to depending on the value of main time. Okay, so the time complexity is going to be depending on the main tanks. Main tanks, maybe we can just divide by 5 because each and every time main tank is decreasing by 1 by 5. Okay? Means into 1 by 5. But 5 is the just constant. So we can say that time complexity just depend on the main tank's value. Okay, or we can say it is linear. Okay, so this is the space and time complexity for this algorithm. Okay, so this is all for this question.